like me to stand, or can I just like
You
move
can,
over here and sit down?
that is
Or?
perfectly good.
Okay. I think everybody knows who I am, but Andy Wright, one of the many Gold Beach hats I wear is the port manager of the port district. And exciting might be a bit of a stretch. If you're really interested in dredging and what's going to happen out in the bay this summer, then I do have some, exciting news. But actually, I just talked to the Corps of Engineers this morning, and they have awarded a contract to move about 300,000 plus yards of gravel out of the entire federal navigation channel. And the exciting part is that the gravel bar that's been migrating downriver and closing off the marina entrance, they're going to preemptively dredge that out almost all the way back to the bridge in an attempt to buy us some time in between dredging cycles, so they don't have to come in every single year and clean out the federal channel. Yes, Brian?
I always ask this, so I'll ask it again. Is there ever going to be use for the gravel rather than just taking out and dumping it in the ocean?
That would be ideal.
Some of us would love it.
Some,
I mean, if it's just a pile that people can come and use.
We have, and I mean 300,000 yards is a pretty massive pile of gravel. There were 7 bidders on the project, and unfortunately the most expensive bidders were the guys who were going to try and put it on land. It's cheaper, significantly cheaper for them to throw it on a barge, take it out to the ocean disposal site and dump it out there, where the theory is that, that they take it south so it doesn't come back, back to the jetty where they just took it from, but and then it slowly repopulates the beach as that pile gets washed in with the tide and the currents and everything. So I believe that's where most of it, if not all of it's going to go.
It lands back on the beach?
Yes. At some point. I don't know how long. I'd be curious to know how long it takes. The new site is 3 miles out. So they run it out 3 miles, kind of just out and south.
I'm still on the Port Commission at Port Orford, and our dredging is mostly sand.
All right.
And it doesn't have any real commercial value because it is saturated with sea salt water and other undesirables.
Well, and that's the other side of the issue as well. We have, when they get up close to that marina entrance, there are contaminants in the silt and the sand from years past that they can't dump it out in the ocean, and if they bring it on land, it's got to be, they have to lay down plastic and have special trucks come and haul it away, so they actually stop short of where they want to dredge. But yeah, that we have that issue too. But anyway, the dredge Yaquina, the Corps of Engineers dredge, should be here this weekend to kind of start the initial clean out of the mouth, right at the mouth. And then the dredge contractor will be here sometime in July, and they're probably going to be here through the end of October trying to get all of that material moved, weather permitting. It's going to be a massive project, probably the biggest dredging project that's ever occurred in the bay out there. We, in our conversations with the federal government years ago, a few years back, we've gotten to a point where they would only just dredge their narrow little, like, this is our federally designated channel and that's what we have funds to dredge. And so everything that surrounded it, they dredged the marina entrance one year, and then we got a lot of high water and it put 14 feet of fill right back through their $800,000 project, and they weren't really impressed with that. So we went back to them with the suggestion of, hey, let's take this gravel bar, back up, take it out back toward the bridge, and maybe buy you 3 to 5 years in between dredge cycles. And they listened. So it took quite a bit of doing, but we're lucky on the Rogue River in the sense that for whatever reason we have some political capital around here, and all of the mechanisms of the federal government were involved. Our congressmen, the senators, the Corps of Engineers, the Department of Defense, I mean, they all, like, you guys fix this. So they are.
Quick question, is part of the problem that the jetty wasn't put in right when it was put in?
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I should post it on Facebook one of these days. There's a book in the port office there. In the 80s, they did a massive study. They have someplace in Mississippi, they have a research facility that recreates the river flow, the wind, the current. I mean, they can recreate all of the air and water conditions and even the silt conditions. They basically tested in a tank, and they tried 30 different designs, jetty designs, to see if there was a way they could improve on it. And the one I hear the most often is, oh, they should have just extended the North Jetty another couple hundred feet. It would have solved all their problems. And according to the results of the research, it's not necessarily the case.
Oh.
I mean, they did ones that went out in Dogleg to the south. I mean, all different designs, and basically came back and said, there's really nothing we can do with this particular location to improve upon it without having to increase the amount of material we have to move. Because if they extended it out and put a dogleg in it, it would just collect more material right there. It would be safer for getting in and out of the port, but it would probably triple the amount of stuff they had to dredge every year, and they weren't prepared to pay for that, so they just didn't do it. And now it's a fairly reasonably safe crossing for about 3 months out of the year, but the rest of the year it's kind of at your own risk. So anyway, that's what's happening in the bay. Out at the airport, we're right in front of the terminal area and the fuel tank. We're going to dig up the oldest section of concrete or asphalt this summer and repave and resurface it, just as part of the ongoing maintenance plan. We get federal funds from the FAA to maintain the airport, and we have a 10-year master plan that's mapped out with projects every single year, and that's this year's project. It'll be about a $500,000-$600,000 project when it's all said and done. It'll be a pretty sizable area. What else? Oh, the high dock. So the structure that the cannery building sits on, the Gold Beach Brewing Old Nor'Wester building sits on, and part of the Jerry's ticket office sits on, was built in the early 60s. And to my knowledge, it's only had a bit of maintenance one time in 2009. They did an emergency project because there was a drainage issue, and it was flushing all the fill in the high dock out through the bottom of the structure, which obviously is not good. So they went in, I don't know how they did it, but they were able to divert the water off someplace and repair it temporarily. But we've been actively lobbying our federal officials for federal funds to go ahead and do the repair work. In 2009, when they had that incident, they went ahead and did a full phase 1 engineering plan of basically rebuilding the high dock, which is not an easy thing to do because you can't just take the buildings, you can't just take the top off of it and fix what needs to be fixed. So they have a pretty elaborate plan in place for dry docking the structure down on the water side, doing concrete tiebacks back up into the ground to kind of meet the seismic requirements that are now necessary.
Where does that funding come from?
No, the federal government, because it's not something we've actually been saving matching funds, maybe up to 10%. I mean, the engineering in 2009 was figuring about $4 million to do the project, and I would say now you're probably talking 8, which is what I asked for. It was about 8, or my estimate was 8 to 8.5 million for construction. And the federal earmark process, well, they don't want us to call it that. The congressionally designated funds has been revived. So there's a good possibility we could get some federal funds to go ahead and finish that off, and it needs to be done. It's a fairly critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be maintained. So I may have updates on that at some point later, but we won't know the answer on that until the federal budget gets passed. And there was a pretty elaborate application process for that we did. So
Is there water all the way under all those buildings? The Henry
no,
building?
well there shouldn't be.
I never
No.
really thought. Are there piers there? Or
Yeah,
are you
there's-
actually on?
It's that cast iron sheet pile that surrounds the whole thing, and then they put the pilings on the outside of it to kind of hold it in place, and then they backfilled it so that it was, and they backfilled it and then did concrete and asphalt over the top of that. I'm assuming the cannery concrete probably goes down quite a ways, because they constructed the original version of that building when they built the high dock, so it was all built at the same time. But there is, the bottom of those sheet pilings is rusted out, and on the really low minus tides, if you walk down there, you can hear water running out the bottom, which I don't. My office is upstairs. I don't really like. And when doors slam downstairs, I can feel the building go like this. I don't really like that. So we'll see. That it could be a very busy year or 2 years as far as projects go, if we get funds to do that.
It seemed like there were going to be some restrooms down at the South Jetty.
Yes.
That's still in the works?
So last year when COVID took hold, we basically suspended all of our capital spending for the entire fiscal year, and we're getting ready to move back in that direction. That project is next on my list.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, and kind of the last bigger project is out at the South Jetty there. We still have plans to pave, do some paved parking areas, some curbing, some sidewalks, and construct a bathroom in that center patch of grass kind of just adjacent to the RV park. That area is super heavy traffic during the summertime, and just to have kind of a more organized space. And eventually that big parking area kind of out toward the beach will get paved, but it's kind of in a multiple phase project. But
There gonna be a cold shower there too?
no,
Okay.
probably not. I mean,
The dog rinse?
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
just a hose.
Cold?
we discussed that. I don't want to terrify you with the horror stories of what we find in the bathrooms, in and around the bathrooms in that
But
place.
if it was outside,
just
where-
completely
open,
exposed,
yes,
yeah.
you couldn't really do anything.
I guess you could shower in
in
the
theory.
boat rinse, right?
In theory, yeah. If you had an indestructible shower head and an indestructible handle to turn it on and off, then I could probably make it happen. But people will just come by and knock things off walls for no apparent reason, take the guts out
camera on
of
it.
toilet tanks. Oh yeah,
They do the camera too.
yeah, an indestructible camera. No, that's no joke.
Andy, your closest airport inland of consequence is Josephine County at Merlin.
Yes.
And they're doing a runway extension.
Yes.
Larry Graves is just in the process of retiring. And he may come over with Jordan White and I and do some work at Cape Blanco, which is 5,100 feet long, a mile, and it's the only, besides Brookings, it's the only airport expected to survive after the big one.
Yes.
So I recently bought another hangar out there that has an apartment in it, and Jordan White figures into that because I want it to be a Curry County Emergency Services Center.
Okay.
So when you run into Jordan, listen to his vision.
Okay. Yeah, did you sit through the Homeland Security stuff they did 2 years ago for the emergency planning? Yeah, we were involved in that to a degree because it was phase one was transportation, but yeah, the Gold Beach Port District is not expected to fare well in the event of a
Either
Cascadia.
Bay or Astoria or
Yeah.
anybody else.
I mean, we're pretty
Down
much.
to Brookings, if the hill stays in place, or Cape Blanco.
Yep.
I hear that runway is exceptional for training people on landing and crosswind.
It works. The wind stops twice a year to change direction.
So what about the Mary D. Hugh?
Yeah, good question.
Oh, you had to ask about the Mary D, didn't you?
Well, you
And you're being recorded.
I mean, it kind of sits there.
before our
Yeah.
very eyes.
Yeah, there's,
Thanks. Gorgeous.
we've had lots of discussions about it, but there's really no action for us to take at the moment. I mean, I don't even know if we wanted to go out there and do something to it if we could, because it's been designated as a historical landmark or something like that.
Is it
So
really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I think it's protected. It has some level of protection. It does officially belong to the port, technically.
Oh.
You know, all the legal entanglements from years past, from the Emperor of the North, as he
Right.
was called.
Anybody ever thought, and I'm like shooting myself for 9 years later thinking about it, of taking a picture once, twice a year of it, same spot, so that
You
you
can
see,
check
you
the.
can watch the deterioration. It's fascinating to me.
I mean, we haven't at the port, but I know any number of the local photographers have got the years in review portraits. Because at some point it's just going to be the old timbers from the hole. You know, all the superstructure is just going to fall back into it and flow. I mean, right now on a really high tide, you know, it will pick up debris from the inside and float it out into the marina. So it's slowly going away, but there's really not a whole lot we can do with it. I mean, there's been people have mused over the years to, you know, take it apart and take it out of the water and rebuild it on land or something like that, but the amount of money and effort that would take would be pretty colossal, I think. So no updates for the Mary D, sorry.
And then just above the Mary D on that flat, I thought Tim Scullin he came and talked to us about the
Yeah, what's
Plank
happening
house?
there?
You'll have to ask Tim.
Okay.
The update
But-
on I do have an update on the plank house. He gave me one like a week ago,
Ah,
which is that the tribe is the Siletz. Is that correct?
yes.
The Siletz tribal members have been pretty much confined to
Yeah.
the reservation. They are now within the next month able to leave, and they're planning on resuming some work.
Oh, great.
But there's it sounds like there's just a lot of prep work to the wood, and that the tribal members actually had never worked with Port Orford cedar because on the Siletz it's red cedar, and so they were relearning how to work Port Orford cedar.
Yeah,
Gosh,
and
I wonder
even,
if we know anybody that knows anything about Port Orford.
yeah, if only.
We have a few people.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing it all by hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even pre-COVID, I mean, there were groups of people that were supposed to come down and help, and he ended up doing a lot of the work himself, and then he got busy, and then COVID. So it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, the agreement's in place from the port. I mean,
So it still could.
oh yeah, no, I mean, as far as we're concerned, that space
It'd
is
be a nice
designated.
distraction as the Mary D, just
Yeah,
Disintegrate.
yeah,
disintegrates and something nice to look at and take photos of.
yeah.
He was seeming to be more optimistic that it was going to be starting to move a little bit more
Yeah.
this summer.
I would think so. Because he's been working away. He's got a storage unit full of slabs to get started with. So.
Andy, what about closing off the airport road? Is that still going to happen?
Yeah. One of the things we've been working on was an instrument approach for the airport. And part of the agreement we had to make with the FAA was we had to close off. They originally wanted us to close off both ends. They didn't want any traffic driving past the end of the airport, of the threshold of the runway, and we kind of said, well, that's not really going to work. You know, maybe the south end, but the north end is an extremely heavy traffic area.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No. So our agreement with them is the south end down by the city plant will get closed off at some point, and there'll just be kind of a cul-de-sac turnaround there.
A moho turnaround?
Yes.
Yeah. People get down there and motorhome.
Oh,
Yes.
Get down there in their
thank
motorhomes
you.
and they got to be able to turn around down there.
Yeah. Well, it actually, I'm not sure where they're going to do it because we're going to kind of coordinate with the city so there is enough room there. But
I never
yeah,
thought about that.
Yeah.
it will get closed off on that end at some point, and there's been discussions of closing off the north end of the old airport road. Used to be able to access the south jetty, but just closing it off and having it be foot and bike traffic only, just because it's getting so bad.
I like that idea.
What's that?
I like that idea.
Yeah, we've been talking about it because that part would be strictly up to the port.
What about all the people that walk their dogs in their cars?
Yeah,
Exactly. They
yeah,
get out.
I know.
Their dog.
Jerry Ross is going to be on my case if we close that road. I have to tell him just go around. So yeah, the instrument approach.
Rent little motorbikes or not
Yeah,
little,
or just
little-
walk. I
that you
mean,
can go.
you can use your legs.
Yeah,
good.
some can, some won't.
Some won't. Some can't. I get it, but still.
It'd be a super nice recreation area really in between there.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
biking, walking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
if the railroad is still there, but you know that you don't have to deal with traffic.
Well, and we've been
outside.
talking to the city about using some urban development funds to make a nice asphalt foot bike path in that vicinity through there once we actually close it off. So.
You could
There's
go
already a lot of
pass on
jumps.
at the end and be totally legitimate.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Well,
But the instrument approach should be in place by this fall sometime, which has been a long time in the works, and that'll be a very good thing. It'll allow CalOR to take off and land in
No matter what,
significantly,
yeah.
well, not no matter what,
Right.
but in significantly worse conditions than they're allowed to do now. And they're still able to kind of cheat a little bit, but yeah, that's in process and will happen here soon. I think that's about it. That's all I had on my list.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Best turnout we've had for a meeting in a long time.